Hi, I just wanted to share a couple of stories about micromanagement that you might find interesting. They both occurred early in my career. I learned some lessons. If you've ever worked for a manager who is a micromanager, it can be very frustrating. So I want to share two techniques with you today that one of them is kind of comical and you would only do it if you had a really good rapport with your boss. But the other one I think is a more serious approach to what you can do if you get caught working for someone who tends to want to micromanage. The first one occurred when I was working in a military application, and we had this one boss that was kind of a command and control type of individual, and he just loved to tell you how to do what you were trying to do. It was a technical type of job, and he would come in the office and basically lay out exactly step by step what you had to do in order to get the job done. And I was sitting in a cubicle with a technician at the time, and this habit of micromanaging really annoyed that technician. And so he finally decided to take some action to try to get a message through to his boss. So one day he brought in a pair of handcuffs and he put them in his desk drawer. And so when the boss came in and started to explain to him what he wanted him to do that day to do his procedure, he reached in the drawer, pulled out the handcuffs, and put them on his wrist. He says, I could really do the job a whole lot easier if you didn't have these handcuffs on me all the time. Well, he got away with it because he had a really good rapport with the boss to begin with, and he kind of laughed it off, and he calmed down a little bit after that. But I think it'd be a dangerous precedent to do with many bosses who tend to micromanage. Here's another technique that I used that I think was quite effective. At one point, I joined another division within my organization, and I was excited about it because the manager or the leader of that division was earmarked as someone who was going to go all the way to the top of the organization. He really had a stellar reputation for getting things done and for doing good work. He had one knock, though, that people said he tended to want to micromanage people. That is, intervene a lot and tell you how to do what you're supposed to do. So since I knew that going into my relationship with him, I made a point to do two things really well right at the beginning as I first started working for him. The first one was to really work hard to anticipate what he might ask me to do. So rather than just wait for him to come up with something, I would study and learn about his techniques and the way he liked to do things. And so that when he would come to me and say, Bob, have you tried this? I would be able to say, yes, I've already done that. I've tried that. And here's what happened. So I was always kind of one step ahead of him in terms of anticipating what he might ask me to do. The second technique was I over communicated. That is, on almost a daily basis, he would get a voicemail from me, even on the weekends, explaining what I was doing and the rationale that I had for doing that. I was still doing it my way, but I was one step ahead of him. He never had to worry about what I was doing because I was always communicating to him what it is that I was doing and why I was doing it. So basically, after just a few weeks of doing those two things, he backed off in terms of micromanaging me. He continued to micromanage other people, but he kind of left me alone, and we got along really well for about 25 years. So those are a couple of techniques that you might try, you might think about using or not using if you're in a situation where you're being micromanaged. Hope this is helpful.